Okay, so good afternoon, guys. Our topic for today is trait and factor theories. And under this, let's see the objective. Under the trait and factor theories, McCrae, Costa, and others have used factor analysis to identify traits and relatively permanent disposition of people. So under this subject, or this module, the objective is first, list and briefly describe each of the big 5 factors. Second, discuss the evolution of the 5-factor theory. Third, list and briefly describe McCrae and Costa's 3 core components of personality. And last is to explain the basics of factors analytic procedures. So under this, let's focus first on the factor analysis. What is this? On the factor analysis, this is a mathematical procedure for reducing a large number of scores to a few more general variables or factors. A complete knowledge of the mathematical operations involved in factor analysis is not necessary to understand trait and factor theories of personality. So factor loading gives us an indication of the purity of the various factors and enable us to interpret their meanings. So under the factor analysis, we have what we call the unipolar traits, which are scaled from 0 to some large amount. So we have also the bipolar traits. The bipolar traits, this extend from one pole to an opposite pole with 0 representing a midpoint. This is on a mathematical sides on the factor analysis. We have the oblique method, which was advocated by Cattell, assumes some positive or negative correlation and refers to the angle of less than or more than 90 degrees. So we have Costa and McCrae's big 5-factor theory. So McCrae and Costa were constructing elaborate taxonomies of personality traits to examine the stability and structure of personality. They rapidly discovered the traits of, first is extraversion or the E, second is N or the neuroticism, and the O, which is opening or openness to experience. These are the structure, these are the taxonomies of personality traits. So they eventually work on the 5 factors of personality and added agreeableness and conscientiousness, and that is C. So the description of 5 factors: people scoring high or N tend to be anxious, temperamental, self-pitying, self-conscious, emotional, and vulnerable to stress-related disorders, whereas people with low scores or N tend to have opposite characteristic. So people who score high on E tend to be affectionate, jovial, talkative, a joiner, fun-loving, whereas those who score or has a low E scores tends to have an opposing traits. So for Costa and McCrae big 5-factor theory, the description of 5 factors, the high O scorers prefer variety in their life and are constructed to low O scorers who have need for closure or who gain comfort in their association with familiar people and things. People who score high on A tend to be trusting, generous, yielding, acceptant, and good-natured. And low A scorers are generally suspicious, stingy, friendly, unfriendly, irritable, and critical of other people. So for the big factors, there are different scores that is being clarified. What are these scores meaning? If you have the high and low on these scores, you will see what are the traits or personality of the person. So the description of the 5 factors, people on the high on the C scale tend to be ordered, controlled, organized, ambitious, achievement focus, and self-discipline. Together, this dimension make up the personality trait of the big or the 5-factor model, often referred to as the big 5. So the units of the 5-factor theory, the 3 core components include basic tendencies are the universal raw material of personality. Characteristic adaptation are acquired personality structures that develop as people adapt to their environment. And self-concept refers to knowledge and attitudes about oneself. And there are units of the 5-factor theory. We have the peripheral component includes biological basis, which are the sole cause of basic tendencies. We have the objective biography, which is everything a person does or thinks over a lifetime. And we have the external influence or knowledge, views, and evaluation of the self. There are basic postulates. So under the basic postulates, we have the basic tendencies, which are one of the central components of personality, along with characteristic adaptation, self-concept, biological basis, objective biography, and external influences. Characteristic adaptation acquired personality structures that develop as people adapt to their environment. So another for the big 5-factor theory, we have the 4 postulates. Number 1 is the individuality. Second is origin. Third is development. And the 4th postulates under this theory is the structure. When we say individuality, that postulates, stipulates that every adult has a unique pattern of traits that's under the individuality. And for the origin, postulate assumes that all personality traits originate solely from biological factors that such as the genetics, hormones, and brain structures. And another postulate is the development that assumes that traits develop and change through childhood, adolescence, and mid-adulthood. So the third or the 4th structure postulate states that traits are organized hierarchically from narrow and specific to broad and general. That's the 4 postulates under the big 5-factor theory. So we have what we call the Eysenck factor theory. Under this theory, the personality theory has solid psychometric and biological components. The criteria for identifying these factors, number 1, is the psychometric evidence must be established. Second, for you to identify the criteria to identify the factors is the factor must possess heritability that fits a genetic model. Third, the factor must make sense from a theoretical view, and it must possess social. So again, for Eysenck's factor theory, the lowest level or specific acts are cognition, individual thoughts or behavior. That's 1. The second level is habitual acts or cognitions, responses recurring under similar conditions. Under the third level, traits, important semi-permanent personality disposition. And the 4th level is types made up several interrelated traits. So there are dimensions of personality. Under this, Eysenck and Cattell had worked on different levels of factoring, which allowed them to develop different number of personality dimensions. Eysenck developed the three general superfactors that has regarded as part of the normal personality structure. What are these? Number one is extraversion or E. Under that is introversion. Second is neuroticism or N, and under this is the stability. And third is psychoticism or P, or the super ego. Under the Eysenck factors also, we have the extraversion that is being identified as what? It is an extroverts that are described to be sociable, impulsive, lively, quick-witted, and humorous. Those are those persons who have extraversion. And for those neuroticism, people scoring high on neuroticism tend to overact emotionally and have difficulty returning to normal state after an emotional arousal. So for the psychoticism, like extraversion and neuroticism, P is a bipolar factor, and with psychoticism on one pole and superego on the other. Under Eysenck developed for personality inventories to measure his super factors. And there is also another assessment done, which is the most Modely Personality Inventory or MPI, assessed only E and N and yielded some correlation between these two factors. Another inventory or assessment being considered is the Eysenck Personality Inventory, that's EPI. The EPI contains a lie scale to detect faking, but more importantly, it measures extraversion and neuroticism independently with near zero correlation between E and N. So Eysenck Personality Questionnaire or EPQ included a psychoticism scale.